In the history of Australian show business, there's one young lady who's done it all. Nancye Hayes is one of our most accomplished and versatile actresses and dancers. Her long list of credits includes such stage successes as Sweet Charity, Promises, Promises, Irene, Pippin, Annie, Same Time Next Year, Chicago, and recently in Sydney, The Conquest of Carmen Miranda. Nancye won a Penguin as Best Supporting Actress for her portrayal as Rex Connor's secretary in The Dismissal. She has a leading role in a forthcoming TV miniseries called The Last Bastion, in which she plays the wife of one of our most famous Prime Ministers, John Curtin. Would you welcome Miss Nancye Hayes? In mentioning your credits, it really is, it's quite phenomenal the number of shows that you've done in Australia.
Yes, they go on and on, don't they?
Do you have a
I hope they go on for years, mind you.
One special one that remains in your mind?
Well, yes, Sweet Charity would have to be my favourite because it was such an enormous opportunity to get, as such a young actress, to be able to play a role like that. And I think it'll be a hard one to ever top because it was everything, the music, the script, the dancing, the show itself.
Watching you in Chicago a couple of years ago now, an amazing thing, you know, you sing, you dance and you act, and there aren't too many people who can do all three things. What came first for you?
The dancing. I always wanted to dance, and that's really all I ever wanted to do. But when a show called How to Succeed in Business came along in Melbourne here, we had some American imports, and they felt that I had an ability with comedy, and I was given the understudy to Hedy LaRue. So when the American girl returned to the States, I took over in that role, and that started me into comedy and acting and all sorts of other things.
Supposedly the three first ladies of Australian theatre now would be considered yourself, Jill Perryman, and Tony LeBond, even though Tony is overseas. And I'm old enough to remember when Evie Hayes was just the most wonderful thing on stage.
Yes.
Among you ladies, is there much jealousy and rivalry trying to get a role?
No, not really. I mean, I've recently worked in Perth with Jill in Chicago, and she played Mama Morton. We've worked many times together. So we kind of share them now.
What about funny things happening in theatre?
Well, I remember having to go on for Jill during the season of Dolly. She was the understudy to Dolly, and she was playing Widow Malloy, and that was a type of role that I'd never played at that stage. I'd only ever been Hedy LaRue singing "Where Can I Find a Treasure" with that terrible squeaky voice. So I had to go on and sing with this wonderful contralto, sort of soprano, and I was terrified, so they kind of pushed me through the door, and when I got to the really high notes, I just danced. The musical director was aghast. Every time I get to something that was really high, I'd whirl around the hat shop. So dance, when in doubt, dance, Nance, they know me now.
That's lovely. When in doubt, dance, Nance. They say in television you've got to be slightly schizophrenic, but certainly in theatre you'd have to be even more so, because recently you were two people on the one day, weren't you?
Well, three people, many people. I've been doing a mini-series called The Last Bastion, playing Elsie Curtin, as you mentioned. And Elsie was a very quiet, restrained sort of woman who was there with the family and with John Curtin during the war years and the worrying years, and that was quite a dramatic part. And in the evening, I've been playing Carmen Miranda in my 6-inch platform soles and all that fruit on my head, and Lucille Ball and many other people in the course of the evening. So by the end of the week, I didn't know who I was.
The Last Bastion, in which you play Mrs. Curtin, it's a mini-series,
yes,
which I believe we've got here at 9, so I'd like to hear lots about it. We haven't got it? 10 has it, I beg your pardon. So we'll just skip that.
Next.
What's it like as a mini-series?
Well,
It's an exciting period of
It's an exciting
history.
period of history. It's from 1939 to 44, when, of course, the Japanese threat to Australia was very great, and our troops were overseas. So you've got all those wonderful men involved with the war, like Churchill, MacArthur, Curtin, all the famous Australian politicians. Like The Dismissal, there aren't many women in the series, but it shows you the background of what was happening at that time, and that's really fascinating. Everybody's all those super egos and superpowers.
You think it's going to be as big as The Dismissal?
I hope so. I think it's a very, very fine production.
That must have been a real experience to be in that. I can safely talk about The Dismissal at length because, of course, it's been and gone. And to work with Bill Hunter in his magnificent portrayal as Rex Connor. Do you come away from a work like that and still retain some of that character you've played?
Well, it's very hard with film. I find it, because you're doing it not always in the same order as the story runs. I mean, you might do a scene that's going to be at the end of the series on your first day, and I find that very difficult to get used to because I'm used to working through a show. But I find it hard to answer that question in that I haven't really had enough experience with film. I find it fascinating and a medium I'd like to work in a lot more.
You a method actress?
Method in my madness.
Hayes Gordon type method?
No.
Do you understand that?
I do understand it, and I've studied it, but I think I'm a rather instinctive actress.
What about young kids starting off today? I mean, you see so many start off. You know that so many aren't going to succeed.
Yes.
Do you think it's a good life for a young person?
Well, if it's what you really want to do, I don't think there's any substitute. And particularly with dance, I think even if you don't become a professional dancer, it's a wonderful thing to do because you learn discipline of mind and body and respect for your body, and the physical side of things are wonderful. So you take away a great deal from learning to dance, I think.
There's something which you're doing which is very worthwhile and certainly worthwhile mentioning. Nancye is presenting dance highlights through the ages as part of Dance Expo 84 at Melbourne's Entertainment Centre next Saturday night at 7:30. The Graham Lyle Band will be featured also at Dance Expo 84 next weekend. So good luck with that, and I hope it goes national, because I think it's very worthwhile for young people to be able to see stars as yourself in action and also have the benefit of your experience and expertise. So good luck.
Thank you.
Lovely
Bert.
having you here this evening. Nancye Hayes, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't forget, we're also joined this evening by Torvill and Dean. We'll be crossing to the interval of their magnificent performance. We look forward to meeting these two young people who've taken literally the world by storm. And we'll take this break and we're back with you soon.